Israel is unsustainable. There's no coming back from this. Something new needs to be created.
For many of Israel's supporters, talk like that is terrifying, anti-Semitic by definition, even when it comes from fellow Jews. Like New York mayoral candidate Brad Lander, whom we met in a previous video.
Do not be fooled by the fact that Lander is Jewish.
That's New York personality and influencer Lizzie Savetsky, whom we met in our previous videos. You might say she's New York's answer to our own Marnie Pearlstein. And as you can tell, she is not happy with what's going on in her city. She and many Jewish Americans like her are increasingly being drawn towards the American right.
If this jihadist wins, it's going to set off a whole trend throughout our country, because this is not just going to end with New York City.
In Australia, many formerly progressive Jewish Australians are likewise finding themselves increasingly drawn further and further right. We wish them all the best, but we think they are in for a rude awakening.
If you're someone on the progressive side of politics or the left, that kind of criticism, critiques Israel as a settler colony that is currently committing genocide. Whereas Tucker Carlson or some of his ilk would arrive at criticism of Israel via very different means.
My arms are stacked, I go back to black.
That's Australian journalist Jan Fran talking to Antoinette Lattouf about the phenomena that is the focus of this video, certainly in the US, but also to a lesser extent here in Australia, which we hope to explain and help Australians understand, and maybe even draw lessons from. Which is that right-wing politics is not going to be the long-term sanctuary that many supporters of Israel wish it to be. On the contrary, it illustrates how the anti-Semitism discourse itself, rather than the actual actions of Israel, has reignited anti-Semitism in ways we would have never imagined possible 10 years ago.
Michael, the Labor Party have pandered to the Muslim community in Western Sydney since October 7.
But you can never satisfy these jihadists.
Yes, that is 20-year Labour MP from Port Melbourne, now McNamara, Michael Danby, appearing on Sky the same week his old party announced an election to accuse his party of pandering to Muslims, labeling critics of Israel within the party jihadists, and appearing with associates of the same right-wing astroturfing organizations that did everything they could to undermine the Labour government.
Did it help them?
It's actions like these that have led many in the Labour base to wonder who exactly are the fanatical jihadis in their party who cannot be appeased.
You can't appease them because the issue is not anti-Semitism.
The other night when Trump bombed Iran, I put up a tweet that included saying my thoughts are with Iranian New Yorkers tonight who have loved ones in harm's way. And a ton of people reached out to me as though that was some radical statement.
The American Jewish establishment in New York and nationally is basically willing to get into bed with anybody, no matter how sleazy, no matter how discredited, as long as that person is willing to support unconditional support for Israel.
The attitudes of millennials and Gen Zs are fundamentally different from baby boomers and Gen Xers all across the political spectrum.
They don't give a shit. They're only concerned about maintaining this unconditional support for Israel and smearing anyone as anti-Semitic who challenges it.
It's less visible on the right so far, but that's a function of the mechanics of party politics and failures in our democracy, which we'll talk about in a moment.
We should just be doing better than that. And the fact that Zohar Mamdani will win and that he's going to win with a significant share of the Jewish vote gives me hope. There are just a lot of ordinary Americans and a lot of ordinary American Jews who don't think that way.
But there are also a lot of American Jews and Christians with some odd views about Israel and Zionism.
I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate. And I've worked every day to do that.
That's Texas Senator and 2016 presidential candidate Ted Cruz, who attracted considerable attention for that statement, which is the most important thing about it.
And the reason is twofold. Number one, as a Christian, growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed.
I know what you're thinking, but before you judge, let me say that Ted Cruz was a classmate of mine at university. He's actually extremely clever, and he hasn't changed one bit.
That's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the Google.
It's in Genesis, but... So you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it, and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay.
But what? Hold on. Define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Whether you believe he is sincere in his declared devotion to Israel or the Jewish people.
The enemies of Israel, the people who hate Israel, they all hate us. It's almost a perfect overlap.
Or whether you think it's simply a function of political calculation. The reality is that this calculus is changing, which is why Senator Cruz required some surprising emergency support from our friends at News Corp after that interview, including all the way down here in Australia. Jari Markson herself came to the rescue.
The hysterical public protests from anti-Americans who claim to be American first.
It's actually America first, Ms. Markson, but on behalf of my fellow American citizens, we appreciate your concern and expression of support, which we have no doubt is deeply felt.
And the most prominent of these is Tucker Carlson. Now, Tucker employs the journalistic technique of make him look stupid to the audience.
Which it turns out is easy to do, even with the most brilliant people when they're being mendacious and insincere.
Is AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen.
Cruz does have the moral authority, not Tucker Carlson.
AIPAC, a lot of times, AIPAC, I wish were much more effective.
When was the last time AIPAC took a position that deviated from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
All the time.
Name one.
Okay. Let me go back and give a little history. If you want to do a deep dive on AIPAC,
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive.
Now, Ted Cruz also called out what he claimed, and I agree with, was his weird obsession with Israel.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel. When we're talking about foreign countries,
it's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now.
And as you know, Trump already described Tucker as kooky.
For some reason, Ms. Markson inexplicably deprived her audience of the ending of that exchange, which is the part that made the whole conversation go viral. Perhaps it was lost in the editing room. It's so hard to keep track of clips these days, so we thought we'd helpfully add it back in.
See, that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that, and I have
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but on my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it.
Kooky.
There's a fever swamp. Look,
it's not a fever swamp. These are very reasonable questions, and you've accused me of being obsessed with Israel, which I'm not.
I actually haven't. I've said
and of being
isolationist
feverish about it, which I'm not at all. I find it's a very tender spot when you ask it, and I don't know why.
Kooky.
And shame on you for suggesting otherwise, and I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions
I'll
in a
answer any
straightforward,
question
rational way? You certainly have the IQ to do it.
Kooky.
Why are almost every single Republican I'm aware of, other than you and maybe Massey, is like in this weird kind of Israel worship mode all the time?
Kooky.
And many Democrats, by the way, Pelosi, chief among them.
When a candidate steps forward and they're running for Congress, they get approached by all kinds of groups. AIPAC will take Republicans and Democrats, new members, on a special trip to Israel.
Whatever you think about Ms. Green herself, that's all irrelevant for the purposes of this discussion. Because there's a reason Ms. Green's voice has purchase at a moment like this, when the U.S. is on the edge of another war. She is vocalizing resentment against American government policy, which she believes is divorced from the needs of ordinary Americans. Now you might say, now she notices. What else is true? Yes, she's noticing.
They'll have a survey form for you to fill out. Each group has a survey form because they want to know where you are on the issues, which I think is a good thing.
And yes, American politics is influenced by all sorts of special interests, as we've just mentioned. Israel and its supporters are not unique in that way. But by accident of history, a number of threads are coming together to make the corruption of American politics over the politics of Israel obvious and resonant to people in a way that other forms of political corruption simply aren't. Ironically, one of the most important of these trends, at least for the American right, has its origin almost 10 years ago in the battle against anti-Semitism.
If you boycott against Israel, New York will boycott you.
That's now disgraced former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who, for those unfamiliar with American politics, just lost the Democratic primary for mayor of New York to Zoran Mamdani. He gave that speech in 2016, shortly after being reelected to his second term. Had he not been brought down in a hail of corruption and sexual assault allegations, he almost surely would right now be preparing to run for president. In 2016, his decision to pioneer anti-BDS legislation, a move quickly replicated in 38 of 50 states, was widely appreciated by many of his supporters in New York. We're not here to critique him or the choices he made. We're here as Australians to ask a simple question. What was the effect of the anti-BDS legislation, and did it deliver what Mr. Cuomo's supporters imagined it would?
Tú nos dices que debemos sentarnos, pero las ideas solo pueden levantarnos.
Ask yourself these questions. How many people do you think knew what BDS was in 2016? Especially in some of the hinterland states we're talking about. How many people know what it is today? How likely was BDS to ever become relevant in a place like Kentucky, or Tennessee, or Nebraska, or Iowa, or Texas? Places where very few people spend much time worrying about whether Israel was or wasn't practicing apartheid. Certainly in 2016, and probably still today. Imagine you have a small business in, say, a Houston exurb, or a small town in Nebraska, and you provide some service to the state. Maybe it's landscaping, or accounting, or IT, whatever. At the risk of generalizing, let's say you're a white Christian Republican, you identify as conservative, you belong to the local golf club, Kiwanis Club, Rotary Club, and maybe your local church. At the start of the year, you sign a renewal contract for your services and are struck by a new clause in the appendix, which might be worded something like this. The contractor verifies that it does not boycott Israel and will not boycott Israel during the term of this contract. That language is from Texas's legislation, and every state and every contract will be worded differently, but that's the general idea. Now you might ask yourself, who's boycotting Israel? Why would someone want to boycott Israel? Why would someone worry that I would boycott Israel? And most importantly, why should the state of Texas or Tennessee or Nebraska care whether I boycott Israel?
You got that, Texas? Texas, the land of we do whatever we want, don't fucking tread on me, I'm American.
I'm not sure sponsors of this legislation appreciate what an affront to American sensibility this was.
I want to know this from my friends from Texas. Did you know this? Did you know this about your own state?
In part because the issue is so unimportant to most Americans that few people bothered to complain.
It's particularly funny happening in Texas because of Texas's reputation of like, don't fucking tread on me and where everything's better in Texas and don't mess with Texas.
Remember that political calculation we talked about? For Ted Cruz, support for Israel has long been a no-lose proposition.
Texas has like a reputation for its independence, so this is particularly funny.
Even if there's no benefit, and for Ted Cruz, let's be clear, there actually has never been a benefit, because the support from men like Sheldon Adelson he was clearly seeking in 2016 never arrived.
Oh, I know that we like have a reputation for independence.
But there was certainly nothing to be lost by it. Suddenly, however, thanks to anti-BDS legislation,
But actually, we can't make Daddy Israel mad.
people in places that don't spend much time thinking about the Middle East have something to talk about.
This happened to hurricane relief workers in Texas after Hurricane Harvey. They could not get money for infrastructure unless they signed this pledge, unless they signed a contract pledging that they would not boycott Israel.
Why does that have anything to do with hurricane relief?
It's anything. It's any state contractors in any of these states.
Something that was outside the consciousness of tens of millions of Americans throughout the heartland, all noticing that something unusual has happened. They aren't permitted to boycott Israel.
So any state contractor has to sign this thing saying you can never boycott Israel.
And you can never advocate.
And that's the only way you can get money from the state.
Right.
It doesn't matter that boycotting Israel is something that they never imagined they would ever want to do. And if you ask them whether they support Israel, they'll certainly say yes. Still, they've noticed.
What? That is so bananas. That's so fucking crazy that it extends to hurricane.
Without anyone realizing it, politicians like Ted Cruz have put an asterisk next to the Jewish community in every one of these states that have passed anti-BDS legislation or executive orders. Remember what we said in our second video on theories of antisemitism about asterisks next to communities and what can happen when they are carelessly applied. Then October 7th happened. Suddenly, Americans all across the political spectrum see something they've never seen before.
I have said to people when they ask me, if this Capitol crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain is our commitment to our aid, and I don't even call it aid, our cooperation with Israel. That's fundamental to fundamental.
Which is that their politically dysfunctional system suddenly springs to action in a way they can't remember it ever having done for them. As we've said, that's not Israel's fault. It's not the fault of Israel's supporters, and it's certainly not the fault of American Jews. Anyone who knows anything about American politics knows that the system is optimized to attend to the concerns of special interests and the donor class.
We are living under a corrupt campaign finance system which is undermining our democracy.
And that manifests itself in all sorts of ways that have nothing to do with Middle East policy.
Corrupt, venal, abusive individuals are bad to make our standard bearers.
But none of that is obvious to average Americans in the way that Israel policy has been. Now, with social media flooding their screens, with awareness of the way their politics seems already corrupted, little things like Senator Cruz's proclamation.
I came into Congress with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States.
Something that he undoubtedly said many times in the past and attracted no attention whatsoever, suddenly carry much more resonance and weight. Americans agree they are angry and frustrated with the state of their democracy, with a political system that no longer responds to their needs. The war, the money, the blank check support, the restrictions on their individual liberties, and most importantly, the horrific images on their screens have all come together as evidence that affirms their suspicions about what they have long believed to be the case, which is that there is something fundamentally wrong with the health of their society and the state of their democracy.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds,
which the anti-Semitism discourse highlights and unfortunately is becoming associated with it. We'll say this again. This is a comment about politics and our democracy. It's not about any specific lobby or interest group. The reality, however, and it's one that we are going to be living with for a long time, is that Israel and the conflation of Zionism and anti-Semitism brings all this to light for people in a way that other areas in which our politics are dysfunctional don't. You don't need to wrap your heads around climate change or banking regulation or the problems of money laundering using anonymous trusts to recognize what this looks like.
That's a crazy thing to deport someone for. How could criticizing that, how could you not be allowed to have a perspective on something that's clearly horrific?
It looks like corruption, which is the real driver of anger today. The state of our democracy, which this discourse highlights. Our problem, in other words, is not the power of Jewish people in our society. It is the weakness of our democratic institutions and leaders. If we lose sight of that difference in Australia, we will find ourselves in a world of hurt.
There's a foreign interest group called AIPAC, demanded 16 votes in April on Israel or the Middle East. We haven't had 16 votes in April on the United States in Congress.
We'll say this again. This is a comment about politics and our democracy.
They pay for trips for congressmen and their spouses to go to Israel.
It's not about any specific lobby or interest group.
They tried to get me to write a white paper as a candidate, for instance, for Congress, and I wouldn't do it. And they said, why? And I'm like, I don't do homework for lobbyists.
We are at 10,000 dead Palestinians. How many will be enough? One of my colleagues just said all of them. Wow. One of my colleagues said all of them. One of my colleagues also stated that this is going to dry up their fundraising if we vote on this resolution. I also want that, that's what we've become in this state. That's what we've become in this state, where we don't care about innocent babies that don't even get the opportunity to blow out their first birthday candle.
I may be the only Republican in Congress who hasn't done homework for AIPAC. And it's just what it is, it's conditioning. If one person starts speaking the truth, they're afraid it could be contagious, perhaps. Everybody but me has an AIPAC person.
What does that mean, an AIPAC person?
It's like your babysitter, your AIPAC babysitter.
The Israeli Defense Minister has ordered the complete siege of Gaza, the cutting off of food, fuel and electricity. Do you think that level of response is justified?
Israel has a right to defend itself. We do stand in solidarity with Israel and we recognise and support its right to defend itself.
Does that right to defend itself extend to what looks like collective punishment?
I think it's always very difficult from over here to make judgments, but I would say this. I think Australia should always, in any conflict, be saying we want civilian lives to be protected.
And as God has struck the hour, day of judgment, God is called.
Foreign Minister, have you ever purchased personal items with your Commonwealth credit card?
I would say this.
Foreign Minister, have you ever used your diplomatic luggage to transport marijuana, cocaine, or any illegal narcotics or other substances?
I would say this.
Foreign Minister, have you ever cheated on your spouse with a staffer or pressured a staffer for sex?
I would say this.
Anything other than a straight no to any of those questions would probably be career-ending for the Foreign Minister, because most Australians consider such questions of personal probity non-negotiables for someone of her position. Yet somehow, for almost 2 years, our Foreign Minister declined to give a straight answer to the letter of the Genocide Convention, even though every person in Australia knows where she personally stands on the question, which is why Israel supporters have wanted her head. And somehow we accept that all of this is just politics.
The Israeli Defense Minister has ordered the complete siege of Gaza, the cutting off of food, fuel and electricity. Do you think that level of response is justified?
I would say this.
As we said, you don't need much expertise to recognize what this looks like.
Cutting off power, cutting off water.
I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation.
I think cutting off food, water and electricity is within international law.
I think that Israel has an absolute right to defend itself against terrorism.
That's not the question I asked.
It is an answer to the question.
Cutting off water, cutting off power.
When I said does have that right,
yes,
I was referring to the right to self-defense. So I was having a conversation about self-defense. I was not suggesting they had the right to cut off water or food. They do not have that right.
Every teenager in Britain knows what this looks like.
I just think there is an element of misogyny in all of this sometimes. Sorry, but I do genuinely think that.
No, Ms. Thornbury, it doesn't look like misogyny. It looks like corruption.
They're probably all sexual blackmailed, like sexually blackmailed.
Is it your sense there's anything the president can do now to get his supporters to move off of the Epstein issue?
That's MSNBC asking perhaps the most powerful Democrat in America about how Donald Trump can get his supporters to move past one of the greatest corruption scandals in American history, a scandal that involves him personally. Why would MSNBC and the Democrats ever want to do that?
They're probably all sexual blackmailed, like sexually blackmailed.
They participate. Right. That's what his MO was, get a massage. And what happened in that massage room, I assume, was on video.
We aren't making any allegations about Mr. Starmer, Ms. Thornbury, or Ms. Pelosi specifically. It's an indictment against an entire ruling class that is quite clearly protecting itself collectively.
It's a big club.
As we'll soon see, it has nothing to do with religion, or Israel, Zionism, or Jews.
Again, this is a distraction. We have major issues.
The members of said class have the same disregard for you on every issue, no matter what your religion may be.
And you ain't in it.
Don't kid yourself or flatter yourself. If you're not part of the club, it doesn't matter where or how you pray.
They don't give a shit.
What's different about Israel and Gaza is that the bloodshed has made the hypocrisy too breathtaking to overlook.
You will have seen the scenes this week in Kyiv. Russia using some of the deadliest weapons in its arsenal on innocent children striking a hospital. When I went to Kyiv, I saw for myself the devastation and inhumanity of Russian aggression. I went to Bucha, just outside Kyiv, and spoke to some of the people there who described to me and pointed to me on the road where they had picked up the bodies of their friends, their family members who had been killed, many of them handcuffed, and had to transport them to find graves for them. Using shopping trolleys, they told me, was the only way they could move those bodies. And that had a profound impact on me as they dug those graves, mass graves, for the people who'd been shot and left in the road.
He's not doing that for the Jews.
As to whether each and every act is in accordance with the law, well, that will have to be adjudicated in due course. I think it's unwise for politicians to stand on stages like this or to sit in television studios and pronounce day by day which acts may or may not be in accordance with international law. I think it's not the role of politicians.
We repeat, he is not doing that for the Jews.
For too long, this city has been let down. So when Labour wins the next election, one of my first acts as Prime Minister will be to put the Hillsborough Law on the statute book.
He's doing that for the same reason his government repeatedly blocked that very law, which for those who don't know is a law that imposes a legal duty of candor on politicians, the same as we have for advertisers. He's doing it for the same reasons. Why?
It seems that transparency is something you yell from the opposition benches, and then when you get into government, you do exactly nothing about it.
I don't know. But it might be for the same reasons that we still don't have a federal ICAC with teeth in this country.
The Albanese government could actually use their majority to say we're going to hold ourselves to a higher standard. So far, from all my efforts in the Senate, from other crossbenchers' efforts around lobbying reform, the release of ministerial diaries, it seems that transparency is something you yell from the opposition benches, and then when you get into government, you do exactly nothing about it.
It's now clearer than ever that Aussie gas is being bought cheap, then flipped for profit overseas, while we face shortages and high prices at home.
And one of the other things, is the petroleum resources rent tax.
A new report from IEFA shows Japanese companies on-sold more gas from Australia than we used on the entire east coast of the country.
So, Jim got 3 options from Treasury to toughen that up, took the weakest one.
They're reselling it to countries like South Korea and Taiwan. Premium markets, big profit.
All it did was bring forward revenue, actually, and raise extra revenue. As Richard Dennis from the Australian Institute says, Norway taxes gas to provide free education. We tax students and don't, and give the offshore gas producers not much.
Well, we hear a lot about the need to restore integrity in politics. Lobbying reform seems like very low-hanging fruit and an absolute no-brainer. We have some of the most ridiculously loose lobbying laws in this country.
Something opposition leaders of both parties have been promising for over a decade.
In the 2024 elections, 100 billionaire families on both sides of the aisle spent $2.6 billion. You got that? 100 families spent $2.6 billion. What does this tell you about our political system?
None of these are the fault of Israel, or Israel supporters, or Jewish people.
So what you have right now is a political system in which both parties are heavily dominated by oligarch and billionaire-funded super PACs.
It is not sustainable and very untenable, the system the way it is. And everybody's noticing this, people on the left, people on the right.
If tomorrow a Democrat were to simply say, you know what, I can't continue to fund this Netanyahu government. They're starving children right now. Humanitarian blockade. Netanyahu's a war criminal. You know what would happen to that candidate? AIPAC and other super PACs would say, you're finished, you're out of here, just like Musk is saying to the Republicans.
The potential tragedy for Jewish people, however, is that the realities of a corrupted political system are hard to understand when we're talking about resource rents or commodity economics.
Laws designed to stop people from harassing other people or intimidating other people from recognizing their religion and worshipping at religious buildings.
They are easier to understand when we talk about restrictions of speech passed under false premises, as hearings into New South Wales Rush hate speech laws demonstrate.
I'm not sure. I don't recall. Okay.
Righto. Look, I would have to take that on notice. I don't recall. I'm being truthful here. I honestly don't recall.
Note to self, never preface a specific answer in a long testimony with the words, I'm being truthful here.
This is like OJ's like if I did it book.
If I did it, yeah.
But they're dead simple to understand for any teenager when they see pictures of emaciated children on their phones and leaders dodging questions about it.
I would say this.
These children are so malnourished that they're actually wasting away. It's shocking to see this degree of malnutrition, and it's because of the blockade.
Something that like every day for the last 9 months I've been asking myself, how is it that we can see this and then people with power in this country are lying to us about this reality that we can all see?
That's Simone Zimmerman at a screening in Manhattan, discovering something some of us already knew. If I stood up on that same stage and said, "Excuse me, but do you not realize that people with power in this country have been lying about lots of things? Like, for example, the fact that carried interest is bonus income, not capital gains." 99% of the people in that audience, the majority of whom are probably Jewish, given that it was filmed at the 92nd Street Y, 99% would have tuned out because partner income accounting is boring. It's just hard for people to get their heads around. But this isn't. People get it. The danger is that if we can't talk about this problem for the problem that it is, a problem of the health of our democracy and the honesty of our politics, an entire generation might come to the mistaken conclusion that everything that they see going wrong in their country is the product of too much Jewish power in our society, rather than what it really is, the product of too little public integrity, honesty, and democracy.
Death to the IDF! Death to the IDF!
We all know why that chant was upsetting to many people. We get it. But young people listening to these statements of rage have spent 2 years seeing thousands of horrific images, intensified by the effrontery of many videos, many made by Israeli soldiers and civilians alike, celebrating that suffering.
For babies, but there is no babies left.
What babies? Say them things?
No, maybe I kill a girl, she was 12, but I'm looking for a baby.
When there is a war, it doesn't matter who your enemy is, you need to destroy their offspring to prevent them from creating more offspring.
Including disturbing scenes, too many to enumerate, of people dancing to hit songs such as Kobe Peretz's May Your Village Burn. A song that's been around long before October 7th, by the way, often associated with videos of West Bank settler pogroms for years. Or Narcissus' Finish Gaza. Or Stilla and Ness's Harbu Darbu.
חבורת עכברים פאקרים יוצאים מהמחילה עושים אבו עליות טמבלים וואלה מילה לא תהיה מחילה על מי אתה חושב שאתה בעל פה צועק פלסטין בחינה? כפי יבלי עמלק חבלה שמאל ימין שמאל איך כל המדינה במדים מגליל עד אילת לוחמים לוחמות
Which is actually quite good when you don't pay attention to the lyrics. When an entire media and political establishment reacts so viscerally to a chant at Glastonbury while being indifferent to everything else, it tells young people a story. It tells them a story about their elites and which lives their elites value and which they do not. It tells them a story about who the legal system protects and who it doesn't. Every time an American citizen who happens to be Palestinian is shot and killed by the IDF, including in the West Bank where there is no war, and there is no mention in mainstream news or from any government mouthpiece, that also tells young people a story. In the UK, Bob Villan was investigated for incitement. His US visa was cancelled, and thus a series of concerts he had planned to give did not happen. We have no doubt that an Australian visa would not be forthcoming. Now, you may think that's appropriate, and it's not unreasonable. To be clear, we get it. So fair enough. But if I told you that Kobe Perez, Narkis, Still Ness, and many other Israelis all performed concerts in America last summer, singing songs like the ones I just showed you, and nobody said anything, you might think that this tells a story.
What disturbs the panel more about the weekend in Glastonbury? The controversial performance itself, I won't mention the performers' names, well done, or the enthusiasm from the crowd?
Truthfully, what disturbs me the most is the media bandwidth given to this subject. Just this weekend, we've had some of the deadliest bombardments on Gaza by Israel, carpet bombing Gaza. On Friday, Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, had a report where Israeli soldiers said, actually, yes, we are shooting to kill civilians. In a weekend where we've had these two things, on top of a 20-month-long war described as genocide by genocide experts, it is absolutely shameful and a disgrace that the media is focusing on this and not having the headlines running day after day on the atrocities that are being committed in Gaza.
That's Israel-born journalist Rachel Shabi, and she is saying what many people are thinking, including people who are also uncomfortable with chants of death to anyone at music festivals. When we drive discussion of important matters out of legitimate public spaces, those conversations often happen anyway.
We pray for the people in Gaza. I don't care. People say that's third worldism. That's not third worldism. That's called being a good person.
That's right-wing online influencer Nick Fuentes, who is a self-described Christian nationalist, racist, and unapologetic anti-Semite.
I'll do you one better. That's called being a Christian.
If I told you that his profile has dramatically grown among the online right, would you be surprised, given he's been saying things like this at a time when even the most respected political and media figures twist and turn to avoid admitting that starving children is unacceptable?
I swing quicker than Federer. I serve pack in a bass bag on a regular. And I'ma tell her how she sing for me T-Pain. Your mama's hooked on the packs.
The reality of Nick Fuentes, a young Holocaust revisionist, kind of Catholic.
That also is kind of what has made this Nick Fuentes' moment.
That is called being a Christian. It doesn't matter what color they are, not to sound liberal, but it's just true. It doesn't matter. We don't want him to live in America.
He is, I would say, for conservatives under 35, arguably the single most influential and admired conservative influencer, right-wing, far-right influencer, whatever you want to call him.
Made himself famous on the web for his incessant attacks on Jews.
And we don't agree with their values necessarily.
There's all sorts of weird things on the American political right.
There are few things as weird as the phenomenon of Nick Fuentes, who is now getting talked about by none other than Ezra Klein, and allegedly makes a reasonable amount of money sharing daily stream of consciousness musings with his 100,000 subscribers.
And I love La La Land, okay? The Trinity is fundamentally different from Allah. If liking La La Land is a crime, then lock me away. First of all, I don't love when Muslims try to obfuscate the differences. You believe that Christians are idolaters. You know what? If you don't like La La Land, you're the gay one, okay? You're the gay one. And you think that Christ is not God, and that's just not good enough. It's a good movie. Arrest me. Take me away. Fine. I don't care. And what distinguishes the Trinity from Allah...
We'll admit we don't quite get it, but we aren't in his target demographic. However, thanks to the credibility he's earned by sounding distinctively empathetic on Gaza, he is being noticed and respected by some surprising voices.
They are getting stronger.
As Christians, to see innocent people being slaughtered like this, you have to speak out against it. You have to pray for these people.
He is one of the most influential and formidable figures in conservative discourse, and people can deny that. I'm sure there are a lot of people wanting to, but that's just the reality. And I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Which, in a world where mainstream media appear ruffled, puts him in pole position to also share his other views.
And the only people that say otherwise are spiritually Jewish or actually Jewish.
They're getting much stronger.
If you're uncomfortable with the idea of another eccentric and seemingly damaged loner with a clever mind,
why am I listening to Tucker Carlson? Why am I listening to Candace Owens? Why am I nodding sometimes? I think a lot of people are having a bit of a crisis.
gift for populist gab, an obsession with Jews, we think you probably ought to be.
People are going to have to accept that. People are going to have to grapple with that. People are going to have to confront that because that is a reality.
The only people that their hearts are so hardened to the suffering of others that they could say there's a virtue in hating those people.
I think people who are worried about it, who think it's dangerous, whatever, really have no one to blame but themselves.
They're all guilty. They deserve to starve. Women, children.
At least they don't try to conceal their Jew hatred.
Because they're brown, really?
The least you can say about them is they're honest about their anti-Semitism.
Yes, they are. The question is, why? Who's responsible for this? Does anyone in Australia think that the censorship that has happened to date has created the result that the people who advocated for that censorship promised?
How long do we have to learn the lesson that if you try and suppress things and ideas and people through censorship, through punishment, through silencing, through exclusion, you're just going to make them stronger?
When you turn to people like that because they're the only people seemingly criticizing the US military industrial complex, you're like, I am very confused and have a very uneasy feeling, but I don't know where else to go.
The problem is when you lie that aggressively,
the gap between what people can see and hear and read, what politicians are saying and what mainstream media outlets are saying is so incredibly vast.
And you use my government to do it and all of its armed institutions to do it, then you force me. You're making people radical.
Whatever you think of these people and their politics.
You know, on the one hand, I'm like, well, you know, maybe some people evolve and they change in their views and maybe they are driven by facts and now they're more, now they're more inclusive.
It has politicized large numbers of people who weren't particularly political before.
There has to be a total mindset change.
So I think it's become totemic.
It's not where the party is. It's not where the world is.
Or is it more sinister and we should just not trust them because they have a very well-documented track record of being pretty batshit? Yeah, it's somewhere on that spectrum. Yeah, I would say.
On this question, they have their finger on the pulse of the nation.
When the Congress passes 22 anti-Semitism resolutions in the last few years, you turn people radical.
One of those resolutions they passed through the House actually conflated anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism. They're literally saying it is anti-Semitic, as in...
It is a crime to criticize a foreign country.
A foreign country, or even an ideology which believes in the existence of a foreign country.
Why are they doing this?
Young people, both on the left and the right, agree. They may not have the same motivations and underlying frustrations, but they all agree the status quo is broken.
People are starting to get resentful at the people who drew the red lines. And you have more credibility if you're over that red line than if you're too scared to cross it.
Where are our colleagues? Do your job properly.
Yeah, bitch, I said what I said.
The rest of our industry, do your job. Otherwise, I have to listen to Tucker Carlson, and that's really unfair.
Cutting off military funding for a government that is starving 2 million people and advertising how they're ethnically cleansing the Palestinians seems like the least we can do.
If you are complicit in a genocide, you have lost any legitimacy.
If you can't see that, if you can't say that...
It's such a moral red line.
Israel has a right to defend itself.
Israel has the right to defend itself. Like, what are you talking about? Against what, children?
Get some freaking self-respect and stop being ordered around by a client state. That's not good for us. It's not good for them. It's not good for anybody. It's like being screamed at by your children. No normal parent would allow that.
Table stakes. There's going to be no more military aid for Israel.
Young people have seen enough to no longer believe that my generation and those older than me are telling them.
I'm worried that the contradictions are too obvious, the lies are too transparent. This is too insulting. I can't even deal with it.
Whatever you want to say about Nick Fuentes, he's crossed those red lines many times, and that's given him a great deal of credibility among increasingly large numbers of people.
I feel like the system is breaking as a result.
Yeah.
You can see it already in the way Israel and its supporters have been unable to shake the suspicion, which we suspect is probably held by a large majority of American conservatives under 35, that Israel killed Charlie Kirk.
They're going to try to ethnically cleanse Gaza.
Some in the pro-Israel camp are so knee-jerk about calling you anti-Semitic.
I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand-down order? Was there a stand-down order?
if you say anything that doesn't align with their narrative.
When I see a story and it doesn't click, our guts are usually right. So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress.
He was a truth teller, that he was a fearless truth teller, and that there were a lot of pockets when he turned to them and said those truths that grew extremely uncomfortable.
When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier. Right, the whole country is surveilled.
And I can just sort of picture the scene in a lamplit room with a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus, thinking about what do we do about this guy telling the truth about us.
I have text messages, Megan, calling me an anti-Semite. I'm sorry, let's just take a step back here. I'm an American citizen.
We must make him stop talking.
Dave Smith is allowed to criticize Israel.
No, you're not allowed to. It's even worse than that.
He's not the only one who's been threatened.
And there's always one guy with the bright idea, and I could just hear him say, I've got an idea, why don't we just kill him?
When Charlie was denounced as anti-Semitic and, quote, dangerous by the American Jewish Committee, you were too.
That'll shut him up. That'll fix the problem.
To turn around and call Charlie Kirk an anti-Semite is such a disgusting smear.
Here is Netanyahu, the fourth or fifth time I've seen him publicly talk about how he didn't do it.
Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda.
Starting with Goebbels is always great.
For him to run around saying that Charlie died for Israel is just too much. It's just disgusting. And as his friend,
no,
I feel morally
that
bound
statement
to say that.
was out of line.
It's like him talking to his Alexa. It's called Joseph Goebbels. Joseph Goebbels, lights on.
AIPAC is not good. All the politicians, they have their AIPAC guys controlling. Every single congressman has an AIPAC guy. Wake up.
They take money from some of the worst people in the world.
Charlie Kirk was a giant.
By the way, for listeners, he blinks every time he lies.
Oh, interesting. He's got to tell. He's got to tell.
Number one, wake up, bro. Our government is controlled by Israel and we don't even know, bro. Wake up.
To make sure that some of the worst atrocities being committed on the planet
To do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane.
As the phrase goes, if I'm Zion, I'm lying.
Benjamin Netanyahu really tormented Charlie. We talked about it many times. He tormented Charlie, and his advocates tormented Charlie.
Literally. Nobody realizes, bro. You vote for these people, bro. Your vote's not going to anything. You're voting for Israel.
are supported by our Congress and paid for with your tax dollars.
It's so
Such
crazy.
a crazy video to put out. You're leading a country in the middle of a genocide. And
Yes.
you're taking the time to record I doth protest too much video.
Yes.
This is like OJ's if I did it book.
Yes, but if he just kept writing them.
You have the Charlie Kirk killer, and Trump is blaming on the Democrats for a reason. Wake up. They're trying to divide us. They're trying to divide us.
And everybody under 30 is against Israel. Charlie was 31.
Now, obviously, we have no idea who killed Charlie Kirk. The point of this segment is simply to say, welcome to the reality of American politics in the 30s and 40s. Because those conservative baby boomers that sustain pro-Israel sentiment in America won't be with us forever. For the vast majority of people in America and Australia under 40, regardless of politics, the idea that it is anti-Semitic to criticize Israel, to want to boycott Israel, to consider Israel a racist endeavor, or even to say that it should not exist, at least in its current form, the idea that any of those things are anti-Semitic is not landing. It's not passing the pub test. Whether we like it or not, the case has not been made, at least for this generation. As we've said before, perhaps it will someday. Perhaps if young people only knew the history, as our former PM put it. Only time will tell. The only thing we know for sure is that there is no set of laws or controls or a mandatory training curricula which can make someone accept that which they cannot be persuaded to believe. What exactly does the anti-Semitism envoy think that high school teachers or university administrators can do about students who hold unacceptable views about Israel?
I hope you know that this will go down on your permanent record.
Republicans projected this statement: Israel is committing a genocide against the Palestinian people. F Israel, free Palestine.
There's been a tilt in the conversation, in both conversations, in the last couple of years.
Can you imagine? Got a bunch of kids to chant free, free Palestine. Free, free. Which of course they happily did because these kids don't watch the news.
We're losing the youth of this country. We're losing them on TikTok.
News they watch is TikTok, which has a lot of primary sources of Gazan people being bombed by Israel.
If they're not telling me the truth about this,
you wake up to realizing that so much of the stuff you believed was bullshit propaganda and is all lies. And then once people realize that, they go, well, what else have they been lying to me about?
or if they're reporting this like that, what else is going on?
We've been lied to since the beginning of this country. How is this anti-Semitic, Charlie?
The Jews did everything. Everything.
The good with the bad.
You believe that the Jews run the American government. That's not a secret, Charlie. I'm called a foreign asset, right? That I'm a foreign lobbyist. Well, no, I find it hilarious that all Trump's cabinet is Jewish. Have an AIPAC advisor. Not a single person in Congress can make a decision with asking their Israeli, Jewish, AIPAC. Endless. Go look any post I put up. The hatred, the vitriol that's going on. And so,
the JFK thing, I had no clue.
Israel did 9/11, Charlie.
Oh, they did. Wow.
Why are we in the middle? I served. Why were we in the Middle East?
9/11, apparently.
Did the Holocaust happen? The Holocaust did happen. How many people died? Not 6 million.
But they made a polio vaccine. Vaccines, though.
Okay. That traditionally would have been the thing that everyone go, yeah, polio vaccine. And now everybody's like, does it give you polio? I don't know anymore.
In Nazi Germany, again, they were having transgender surgeries, underground transgender surgeries. They were promoting homosexuality in schools. I appreciate this hearing, Mr. Chairman, but this hearing ain't gonna fix shit.
Well, I mean,
why were we in the Middle East?
You can reject involvement in the Middle East without also believing Israel did 9/11.
With the greatest respect to the memory of the recently departed, when Charlie Kirk is the voice of reason, when MTG is the voice of empathy, or Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens the voice of truth, that's not good for democracy. This man, and many people like him, are going to be in their 40s and 50s when the challenges we described above hit America. That's what we mean when we say America is a country ready to be red-pilled.
The question is, how much impact does this rift within MAGA actually have on the Republican Party?
That's Australian journalist Jan Fran, and the answer to her question is that in the short term, there is no impact. In the Republican Party, just as in the Democratic Party, policy is set by the donor class. But as the Tea Party revolution demonstrated, and the Trump revolution after that, one can't completely ignore popular sentiment, even in an oligarchy, forever.
You're going to pay a heavy price too. You're going to get, and we don't have money power, but we got people power.
Men like this are insignificant today because, while he may turn up at a TPUSA event or spend hours online arguing, statistically, he probably won't bother showing up to vote. But just like baby boomers before them, 20-somethings tripping on LSD eventually become 40-somethings with families and careers and investments, and before you know it, by then, the boomers will be gone.
He lost by 2,000 votes. He lost by like less than 1%. Biggest upset in the midterms. Now, maybe that was us, maybe it wasn't, but you can't know for sure. Now, looking back, would he have made the same remark? Maybe not.
Also potentially gone, we believe, will be the Christian Zionists.
If America pulls the plug on Israel, God will pull the plug on us.
A Christian heresy, the oldest of the Christian heresies, which is that God somehow prefers some people based on their DNA.
The heresy is called dispensationalism, and whatever you think of Mr. Carlton, he's right. It is a heresy. But it's more than that. It's a heresy that doesn't really matter to the heretics. It has survived for so long, mostly because, to Christians, it just didn't matter. Christians should bless Israel? What's wrong with that? Jews are the chosen people? Sure, why not? It's not the kind of thing that's worthwhile even interrogating. Gaza and the rollback of civil liberties have changed that.
Those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed.
Another thing that didn't matter as recently as a few years ago were statements like these.
Last thing we need to do is to tell Israel what to do. The only thing we should be doing is supporting them and eliminating Hamas. It is not that Israel needs America. America needs Israel.
Governor Nikki Haley said that in August 2023. That's before October 7. And she was speaking to an audience of one in the first presidential debate of the Republican Party. A few months later, with the war well underway, she doubled down on her support for Israel, becoming the first American politician, the first, to publicly advocate for the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, telling ABC,
You know, what you should have is they should go to pro-Hamas countries. Qatar, Iran, you know, if you send them there, Turkey, those are pro-Hamas countries.
She said that 2 years before even Donald Trump did. And Nikki Haley, let's remember, was supposed to be the reasonable one who was going to save the Republic from Donald Trump.
They should go to pro-Hamas countries.
Not only did she say that,
That's where they should go.
but the only pushback she got from the ABC's Lindsay Davis was to question the logistics.
They're not able to get into Egypt. How are you supposed to even make it to Qatar at this point?
Isn't that telling?
I still can't get over that exchange. And even more, this smile.
When you talk about expelling 2 million people, that seems to me likely to be pretty darn terrifying to the people you're going to be expelling.
Who smiles like that while talking about ethnic cleansing of 2.2 million people?
Good. We have accomplished something.
Okay, but that's the point. If this isn't the definition of psychopathy, I don't know what is. Even fictional character Arthur Fleck has the basic emotional intelligence to at least be tormented by the sick and twisted ideas running in his head.
We're going to give them digital tokens on the blockchain in exchange for their territory, and then we're going to kick them out and send them to Somalia.
And of course, Nikki Haley was never asked to explain how exactly that could be true. What are you talking about, Governor Haley? Not one person asked her that question.
What the fuck is this? This is evil.
And no one asked her that question because anyone in whose mind that question appeared would have paused for fear of being attacked as an anti-Semite for asking a question about geopolitics. That has been the state of play in the United States for my entire life, over 50 years.
Whatever you think of Mr. Carlson, he and others on both the right and left are finally calling all this hypocrisy out.
It's too humiliating. And people who don't want to see their government bossed around by a tiny foreign power are not haters. They don't hate any ethnic group. They just don't want to be humiliated. And by the way, why should they be humiliated?
It's still so easy for people who support unconditional support of what Israel's doing to go on the U.S. media and say things that are palpably, obviously untrue and not be challenged on these things.
You know, these are human beings. Like, these are human beings with lives. Like you and I. They were born there. We were born here.
Politicians make nonsensical statements. Nobody wants to even ask a follow-up question for fear of being attacked.
I actually do believe they use blackmail. I actually do believe they do that. So
we were born here, so we get to go to school and ride the school bus and have Christmas parties and go to Disney World.
It is a state of perpetual intimidation.
They participated. Right.
Teach them how to defend by attacking.
We're not getting pushed around anymore.
Everybody's afraid of Israel.
If you want to know who rules over you, find out who you're not allowed to criticize.
There needs to be a price to be paid for being an anti-Semite.
Afraid of the topic, afraid, in some cases, of the state itself.
They were born there, so they know nothing other than hunger and thirst and death.
I would never take my own life. I would never take my own life. You hear that, Israel?
We're now seeing consequences levied against those who take action and stand against our people.
People talk about the Jews are afraid. Dude, we're afraid.
How much of this can we take? Just being completely humiliated.
Get a massage. And what happened in that massage room, I assume, is on video.
Every time Netanyahu shows up, he's got a smirk on his face. And this is why. Because he knows he does control the United States.
They have us in a chokehold here.
Across all sectors where Jews have influence, we need to bring that influence to bear.
And now you've got IDF forces in the Pentagon bossing around top military American brass.
We have not had an honest conversation about this, ever.
This is a problem many decades in the making.
If you're the partner of a law firm and you see an applicant has engaged in this sort of conduct, don't employ them.
What is that about? Why are we allowing this? Why are we allowing all of this humiliation?
And at some point, America's going to have to confront it. We have a Jewish problem. And the Jewish problem is that this country has nuclear weapons and they control our system.
For the record, we at Naosis don't believe we have a Jewish problem. Not in America, not in Britain, not in Europe, and definitely not in Australia. But we do have a problem. Everyone can see it, and everyone, especially those under 40, feel it. The thing is, if it's not a Jewish problem, what problem is it? As we've said several times already, it's a democracy problem. It's a public integrity problem. It's an honesty problem. It's an empathy problem. And it's a decency problem.
Iran and Qatar have come up with a disinformation campaign that they are running through TikTok and Instagram that is massive. If you are a young person, you open up your phone and all you see is dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby, right. Diddy, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby. Like, that's basically your whole feed.
This is who they are, and it's by design. There's no point getting mad at Van Jones. We know what happens to people who show more empathy.
This is emblematic of a broken mainstream media environment.
And this is when you understand that is much worse than lack of solidarity.
This is about Iran.
This is complicity.
And that broken mainstream media environment is absolutely connected to the fact that the United States continues to send the weapons that slaughter and starve people in Gaza.
And that, my friends, is the greatest gift anyone could ever give to young men like Nick Fuentes. So if that's the problem, who's going to tell young people? Him? Her? Him? Them? But if not them, who? Because the only way we're going to stop young people from seeking answers to what's wrong with the world from people like him is not to try and censor him. That's not going to work.
If we want to have an open society, and that's ironic coming from me,
it's by providing better, more compelling, more truthful answers.
You do need some level of tolerance, actually, to...
It's by filling the vacuum that men like Mr. Fuentes are exploiting right now and are going to continue to exploit as long as we give them the opportunity. It's not their job to avoid taking advantage of our hypocrisy. It's our job to ensure they never have that opportunity.
Does that right to defend itself extend to what looks like collective punishment?
I think it's always very difficult from over here to make judgments.
This is what happens when you get all these things coming together.
The reason that anti-Semitism is resurgent right now:
corruption, state failure, institutional betrayal.
So all the homes got broke. It's because we're in a time where people are disoriented, they're disaffected, they're confused, they're shortchanged.
And widespread resentment at a system people quite rightly feel isn't working.
And they're looking for an easy answer.
So they're looking for a scapegoat.
Yeah.
In that situation, Homo sapiens do what Homo sapiens have always done.
We're all Homo sapiens. Well, yo.
8 steps down.
Look for theories that explain things.
I don't do that stuff. I ain't got nothing against it.
Why does the plague seem to spike when the caravans from the east arrive? And why don't the Radhanites seem to die too? Censorship will not protect us. If it did, there would never have been a Robespierre, or a Savonarola, or a Lenin. The so-called red pill MAGA happening as we speak could go in any direction. It could go in a positive direction. It could awaken real class consciousness, patriotism, and national solidarity.
So what is class?
We could imagine a scenario in which Gen Zs become another greatest generation.
We all can be upper class, can't we?
That's one way that this red pilling could head. But red pilling is dangerous because it could go in any which way.
So what if I knobbed the door off a lord? Yes, what you did. What class would the little nipper be?
We don't know who is going to emerge to provide credible leadership in this moment. Ultimately, only healthy societies can do.
The best thing that we can do is build healthy cultures that protect certain virtues, like liberty, like freedom of the individual.
Our job in Australia is to build a different future for ourselves.
That without a very big stick, perhaps, in terms of funding.
That means it's time for new thinking. And most importantly, It's time for an anti-Semitism discourse that's grounded in the reality of the world to come, not in the reality of the past century. The irony of all this is that, again, just like the BDS ban, these actions have made the conflict in Israel personally relevant to hundreds of thousands of ordinary Australians who are not the
poorly integrated migrants, cultural Marxists.
That's the most important point.
Firstly, it was a massive crowd.
And was an opportunity for people to express their concern about what is happening in Gaza.
Over 100,000 people. And if the weather wasn't appalling, I think it would have even been maybe even double the size.
I think this is a moment, a sort of wake-up call for Australian politics.
There's no doubt there was a massive community demonstration. Huge.
There was a lot of Middle Australia there, and I think that's something that can't be ignored.
It's not surprising that so many Australians have been
concerned about the situation in Gaza and had incredible empathy and concern about Palestinian children in particular, but the entire situation.
Many of the Australians who went on the Sunday Harbour Bridge March are the kind of Australians men like Mr. Abbott would call real Australians. While we're glad to see them awaken, our concern is that red pilling is always dangerous. But it's not destiny.
The best thing that we can do is build healthy cultures that protect certain virtues, like liberty, like freedom of the individual.
We can't count on our elites to do that, because they don't face the same risks and stakes as the rest of us. We aren't attacking or criticizing anybody. It's not anyone's fault. It's just a timeless fact of history, that in unequal societies, no one is ever going to care about truth, equality, and justice as much as the rest of us do. Gaza reminds us of that. When it comes to social cohesion, our elites aren't going to save us. To see why, let's consider the case of perhaps the most high-profile red-pilled American today. Let's consider the miseducation of Candace Owens.
Many of you will have heard of Candace Owens, a US political and social commentator.
Ms. Owens spent her life working for the most pro-Israel media organizations in America. She's a dogmatic conservative Christian zealot who had the kind of flair for polemical speech that made her a darling of right-wing media for almost 2 decades.
She's a really gifted communicator.
She was a hit among an audience who loved her mix of tradwife conservative commentary.
The conviction, the way she can just speak to camera without hesitation. She is a very, very skilled communicator, and not many people have that skill.
Women are nasty now. The idea that we don't need men. We have become the perverts. Me Too error is a cultural war on men. There are so many women that don't know how to cook.
Mixed with an entertaining dose of suburban MAGA mom conspiracy mongering.
All right, you guys, happy Tuesday. And it's looking like Brigitte Macron wants revenge.
With a healthy dose of conservative white grievance.
Well, look, I think the president is doing something different. Definitely his tone is different because he tells the truth and he doesn't pander to Black America. He hasn't offered us hot sauce. He's offered us jobs. That makes many people uncomfortable because they're from an era where race hustling is a business.
Full disclosure, we at Naosis are not part of the demographic Ms. Owens serves, and so do not consume her content and have no idea about her character.
You know Candace? No. She's like the sweetest lady. Like, when you meet her, she's just like a total sweetheart.
We put on a t-shirt to actually do something that was inclusive, to say, actually, white Americans, you are allowed to be a part of this too, because literally all lives matter.
But we know some people who do.
That was good, Candace, a strong, sensible voice calling out the extremes of the woke left.
Yes. Conservative white people loved her provocative and insensitive take on race matters in America.
When Candace was taking the gloves off with Black people, they were all like, yeah. You know what I mean?
And they really loved the fact that she was offensive to many African Americans, who said they found her criticism of Black culture distressing.
Black people are happy she got her eyes off of us right now.
Oh, she'll be back. I know. Thank you. Enjoy your moment while she's focused on us.
Many people accused her of using her race to whitewash racist theories about Black underprivilege, which is perhaps why Mr. Kenny's audience at Sky found her so compelling. Up until last year, she was working for the premier property and digital conservative media, Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire. That's when she gave an interview that would change the course of her life and help drive the Daily Wire to bankruptcy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, wow, this is going to be the last episode before I go on maternity leave. Well, I just wanted to kind of put a clean button on the issue of Israel versus Palestine. Last week, I was super honored to have Ami Kozak on the show. He's a wonderful comedian. Go follow him. He's amazing. He's pro-Israel. And I think that he stated the pro-Israel position very well. And I wanted to also yield some time on the show to what I would describe as the pro-Palestinian position by welcoming a Jewish guest, actually, similarly Jewish. His family, both of his parents, survived the Holocaust, and yet he does not support the state of Israel, which is really fascinating and confusing for some people. So why not dive into it and allow Norman Finkelstein to explain what he thinks and why he thinks it.
You can tell watching this that she has no idea what she was getting herself into.
Every hospital in Gaza now has been disabled. You're an expectant mother. Do you really have doubts, questions? How do you react to the usage of that phrase, mowing the lawn of a people, when 1.1 million of those people are children? Do you get that? Mowing the lawn of 1.15 million children. Now, that may be the first time you've heard that expression.
It is.
But I've heard it for years and years. They make up these stories that we have to turn off the incubators in the hospitals because there's a Hamas command and control center. Then it's okay to deny fuel to the incubators. Imagine you, Candace. Your child is born prematurely and is put in an incubator where the fuel is cut off, and your child that you've been carrying for 9 months suffocates to death. Is that complicated? Does it require a PhD in Middle East studies to figure these things out? In my book, it's as complicated as my family being shoved into gas chambers. That's how complicated it is in my eyes. Now, I'll tell you something, Candace. I live in an apartment building. I go into my elevator, and there will be a parent with the kids, and all of a sudden, I get overcome with this sick feeling because I look at the kid and then I see those pictures from Gaza. I see those incubators. Sorry, not complicated.
It was her last interview before maternity leave in November 2023, during which she clearly started reading up on what Mr. Finkelstein told her and tweeting. It's always risky tweeting during maternity leave.
I went through a firestorm for saying, after watching Brian Mast give a speech in Congress and say there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian. That is genocidal language.
Yeah. But from there, she went a long way down the anti-vaxxer wormhole.
This is what notoriously led to David Horowitz of the Freedom Center writing a piece saying, "Goodbye, Candace Owens," which was one of the worst smear pieces I've ever read. Goodbye, David Horowitz, to you too, because how dare you? Yeah. How dare you lie to your audiences, claim that I said this about Israel when I was talking about Brian Mast. You just put words in my mouth.
Candace Owens has quit the Daily Wire, reportedly over anti-Semitic comments that she has made.
I think sections of the right are going a bit mad.
Yeah, that's crazy. There is a group of people that believe that, and Brian Mast, I would say, is one of them, that there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian, and that language is genocidal.
We know that the left has gone completely insane. Well, more insane than they already were. They've been flirting with ideas of barbarism and turning their back on civilization.
Well, with the Candace stuff specifically, I mean, she has really touched a nerve.
I have been very disappointed with Trump on his perspectives about Gaza.
But I think sections of the online right are starting to do something very similar. And Candace Owens really sums this up.
People that say they're Christians who are condoning this on the basis of what? Like, you're saying, oh, well, they're Muslims, so who cares? And that gets into our programming, which I've spoken about in my podcast, of this 9/11 programming, where we just don't see Muslims as like human life.
She's now saying that the Jews run Washington, D.C., and they are doing horrific things.
We have no idea if that's literally what she said, but of course that's an anti-Semitic trope which should be addressed. What's a good way to disprove it?
She was permanently demonetized from YouTube.
I'm a man of wealth,
And obviously I paid a very heavy price for saying that last year, but I don't care.
She's not actually conservative, she's a total kook.
On Sunday, you were named Anti-Semite of the Year by the watchdog Stop Anti-Semitism. It said you blew the competition away with more votes than anyone in previous years. And their founder, Leora Rez, told the New York Post, Candace Owens, witch's brew of anti-Semitism drew from vile medieval blood libels who claims that Jews drink Christian blood.
Now these settlers have set their sights on a new prize, one that seemed utterly impossible before October 7th. Returning to Gaza, they cheer.
Gazans leaving Gaza, going to other countries. One, where exactly are you suggesting that they should go?
Modern toxic anti-Israel hysteria. There is no psychotic rabbit hole too extreme for this poisonous hater.
Daniela Weiss is the godmother of the movement, and she's already started recruiting from the 700,000-strong settler community of Israel.
And these gangs of people have a stranglehold over public life.
You cannot pretend that that's not because AIPAC spends $100 million in our election.
Why would you advocate for something that many would say is illegal, is immoral?
There's a very strong support from very prominent, from very, I would say, wealthy people, wealthy Jews.
In the U.S.?
In the U.S.
Can you name any names?
No, I cannot. No.
These are old anti-Semitic ideas, I'm afraid to say.
And this gets back to what we were talking about, whether it's Big Pharma, whether it's Israel, everyone's for sale.
Australia has just denied far right-wing influencer Candace Owens from coming to the country as part of her planned speaking tour.
They just concluded that, quote, the interests of Australia are best served for her to be elsewhere. They have barred her from entering Australia. They have canceled her visa.
We plan to take what we acquired in the years settling together in Samaria and to do the same thing here in Gaza.
Post-October 7th, the world, and especially I would say Zionists in media, were demanding that we all pay attention. And when we began to pay attention, we didn't like what we saw. You cannot tell me to ever feel comfortable with 18,000 children being ruthlessly murdered. You can't get me to feel comfortable as a Christian with the amount of more explosives dropped, tons of explosives dropped on Gaza than were dropped in Hiroshima.
I will not support it because I am a Christian.
And this kind of censorship is very dangerous. But should Candace Owens be the one person we can agree who really should be banned?
She really does demonstrate that anti-Zionism is a gateway drug to anti-Semitism.
Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza if they left while the rebuilding was happening?
It would be my hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return.
We don't dispute that Ms. Owens is fond of unusual conspiracy theories.
Harvey Weinstein's been falsely convicted, that Brigitte Macron is a man.
And has said plenty of things that people find offensive.
BLM protests the protesters were pretending to be oppressed for attention, that global warming is not real.
It's just that that's been her MO for 20 years, and it's never bothered anybody. And she's worked for the most stridently Zionist media organizations in America.
I love this house. I think you'll make that into an international, unbelievable place. I think the potential in the Gaza Strip is unbelievable.
Seeing it from the air, you can appreciate the architecture.
The Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent.
Are we ready? Absolutely. And after the war, it will be my home.
How do we intend to proceed with settling Gaza?
Like BDS bans in the US, banning someone like Candace Owens may feel good, and for Tony Burke, may feel like a low-cost concession to an angry constituency.
This is the first bold, new, out-of-the-box thinking about Gaza.
After a year of gaslighting us and telling us that wasn't happening, like everyone just smearing us in the media, calling everybody anti-Semitic who noticed that an ethnic cleansing was taking place.
People say it's against international law to move populations. We shouldn't use cliches like ethnic cleansing and transfer of population.
We're just now getting to the point, which is an ethnic cleansing is going to take place. We're going to just move millions of bodies.
But by validating suspicions about government and media corruption, it poisons the national conversation and harms the cause for Jewish safety.
Do I think Bibi Netanyahu has genocidal ambitions against the Palestinians? The answer is yes.
Do you think he's a war criminal?
Yes. I believe he's a war criminal.
She started off by attacking Israel, but it morphed very quickly into attacks on Jewish people.
We don't know if any of this is true.
They don't care about whether it's true or not.
And now we're going to try to emotionally engineer the public to think that it's acceptable by saying, well, there's nothing left. Our bombs bombed it all.
I know that mentality.
Teach them how to defend by attacking.
Lunatic conspiracy theorists who believe that Jews drink the blood of Christians and that Israel was set up as a Jewish pedophile ring.
Did she really say this? Again, we're not consumers of her content, so we can't know.
Because...
Don't let the war of words ever be fought about Israel's nature. Let it be fought about why you can't accept Israel.
If it serves the cause, it's true.
We have political support, we have public support, and we have the experience that we have accumulated in 55 years of settling Judea, Samaria, the Golan Heights.
I envision world people living there, the world's people.
You will witness how Jews go to Gaza and Arabs disappear from Gaza.
I have a feeling that the king in Jordan and that the general in Egypt will open their hearts and will give us the kind of land that we need.
When you talk about expelling 2 million people, that seems to me likely to be pretty darn terrifying to the people you're going to be expelling.
The moment it came out of the mouth of the US president, yes, we can do that.
Candace Owens has already sold 15,000 tickets to her tour across Australia.
And very quickly, hatred for Israel can become hatred for the Jewish people.
31,000 signatures on a petition directed at Tony Burke. Candace Owens is a Catholic mother of 3. She has no criminal record. She has never incited violence whatsoever.
Thank you, Australia, for doing the moral thing. And Candace, I wish you could repent, but you know, the rancidness of your heart is such that it really probably will take years of therapy, but try it nonetheless. God bless you all.
It's precisely because of what I learned growing up about Holocaust and ethnic cleansings that I do not support what the state of Israel is doing.
She seems to have gone troppo. She's crossed the line.
We are right now in the Supreme Court in Australia. Right now, the case is called Candace Owens versus the Commonwealth of Australia.
No way.
I see a red door and I want it painted black.